farmer. You're selling them on.
He will tell you that. He does. And I'm breaking my heart for all.
I got you.
I left.
I got you.
Library.
This is Nurses. Nurses. Got two of them. Do I got all three? I got all three nurses here. Yep. Yep. Mr. Dalton.
Okay. She's a member.
Nope, she sent me a letter.
We supposed to sign this?
No.
Pass it on down, I assume.
No, that was just.
I'm sure 32.
Clock
How can that be?
It is.
I lived down there in Moody.
Right over there.
Y'all can tell me when it's time to go.
How's your coffee, Mom? How's your coffee? How's your coffee?
It's very good. Very good. It's Folger.
Cheap stuff.
It's very good.
Bringing the cheapest stuff you can find.
It's too late. We got a whole little box of it in there.
Right? Because
Do you
everyone
know-
also wants to know.
After the last meeting, I went to the house and I ordered it that night. It's been sitting in my office for a month. But
You know her.
Well, thank you.
it's okay. Don't want to hear you whine anymore.
You know her.
I'm the only one there. Here we go. I call this meeting to order. First thing, when our student board member lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item is the consent agenda. In a single motion, we will be for the approval of regular meeting minutes from January 21st meeting, approval of the financial summary fund balances, approval of the substitute teacher listing, authorization of payment of bills, and we need to pull Larry Benson's bill out of that, please, and approval of proposed agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda motion. Dan makes the motion. Do we have a second? Mark seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried 7-0. I need a motion to pay Larry Benson. Mark makes the motion. Do we have a second? Troy seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried 6 and 1 Thank you. We would like to recognize our visitors. We thank you very much for coming. We like to see a lot of people here at our meetings. Next item is our monthly board report.
Association's board report for the month of February. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the environment for public education at the national level. The new executive director of the National School Boards Association, Ana Maria Chavez, says that within the first 100 days, the Biden administration must hit the ground running to protect public schools from the damaging effects of chronic underfunding at the federal level. She says public schools have an immediate need for emergency relief funding to deal with the impact of the pandemic. Chavez recently spoke to the MSBA Board of Directors via Zoom during its meeting last month. She says the pandemic has highlighted the important role the public schools play in our communities.
This pandemic has made every household almost part of our public education system. Everybody's a teacher now. If you talk to most parents across the country, most grandparents raising grandkids, they've now realized how difficult it is to be a teacher, to be a superintendent, to be a principal, and to be a school board member. So where these issues were kind of ethereal or theoretical, there are now millions of people who realize that one, we've underfunded public education for decades. Two, we continue to erode the authority, right? Because state by state, and as you know, some public philanthropists have made it their mission to dismantle local school boards. There are individuals who realize how, again, at the federal level, there's a need to fully fund the mandate of public education.
Chavez is calling on the federal government to provide resources to help local school districts with continuing challenges, including improving student access to the internet, alleviating teacher shortages, promoting racial equity, and responding to the needs of special education students. Governor Mike Parson spent considerable time talking about education during his State of the State address on January 27th. The speech was moved from its traditional location in the House chamber at the Capitol to the Senate chamber due to COVID-19 concerns. During the speech, Parson announced the consolidation of early childhood education programs from several state agencies into the new Office of Childhood in the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
This new office will not only help streamline the operation of several state programs, but also allow us to place a bigger focus on early childhood development, a critical component to the future success of Missourians for the generations to come. In addition to early childhood, we will also continue to invest in K-12 education. It goes without saying that this past year has been especially hard on students, parents, teachers, and administrators. These challenges were not just social and emotional, but also financial, which is why we are once again proposing to fully funding the foundation formula.
Governor Parson also urged lawmakers to pass legislation allowing for the collection of online sales tax, the so-called Wayfair fix.
I hope the House and the Senate will consider legislation to address the unfair advantage online retailers have over small businesses in Missouri. I'm a strong supporter of lower taxes. In fact, I have signed several tax cuts into law. However, our small businesses, especially in smaller communities, are getting crushed right now because they cannot compete with huge online retailers. We must level the playing field and consider ways to responsibly invest those revenues and provide new opportunities for our state.
MSBA strongly supports the collection of sales tax on internet sales to increase the funding available to school districts and other local entities that provide necessary services to communities and the families school districts serve. There are several issues being considered in the current session of the General Assembly that are of great concern to MSBA and school board members throughout the state, including the expansion of charter schools, as well as tax credit voucher programs that would funnel public dollars to private schools that are not accountable to taxpayers. As the legislative session progresses, we will keep you updated on developments again this year through our Legislative Voice newsletter sent to members via email each Friday during the session, our Twitter feed with up-to-the-minute developments through critical issue alerts and periodic webinars. We urge you to stay in contact with your legislators during the session and communicate to them the impact legislation will have on your school district. Due to the continuing pandemic, the MSBA Legislative Forum, originally scheduled for this month in Jefferson City, has been rescheduled for April 12th. Check the MSBA website for registration information. MSBA's Center for Education Safety will offer Missouri's first School Safety Academy in early August. The Academy will provide a variety of courses at no cost for certification of participants as school safety specialists. The School Safety Academy is open to all school safety coordinators, school resource officers, school protection officers, and other key school safety personnel. Space is limited. Check the Center for Education Safety section of the MSBA website for information on the application process to attend the Academy. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Next. You do the spotlight. Anyone no public comments?
No, nobody's notified me. Open comments.
Okay. Next is the board spotlights.
So February, this week actually, is School Board Recognition Week. So you have on your table in front of you a certificate from Travis Smith, our new state representative. Travis is fighting for public ed every day. I've talked to Travis at least once, maybe twice, every week since he's been there. So we appreciate him. Obviously, Carla Esslinger is our senator, and we know how she feels about public ed. She and I have had several conversations in the last several weeks. There are some scary bills up there, but they wanted me to thank you for your service. Obviously MSBA, so Board of Education is our spotlight. We just appreciate the time that you spend. I know the pay is high and the time commitment is very low, and you don't have to do much, just you get to show up once a month. But we appreciate everything that you do and the reason you do it, for caring about kids. So thank you. We appreciate it. That's it.
You good?
We're good.
Next item on the agenda is our principal and director reports. First one up is elementary principal, Dr. Clint Hall.
All right. When we finally come back to school, we've got a couple of things to celebrate in elementary. Kids were waiting on the 100th day of school, and they've been waiting for 2 weeks, so we'll celebrate that when it comes back on Monday, hopefully. And then on Friday, we will have our Valentine's parties, which were supposed to happen a couple weeks ago. But we have two big things we're waiting on, and we'll get them done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is our middle school principal, Miss Patty Nelson.
So we started, before we had all of the snow, we started offering completion of credit classes for our students who weren't successful first semester. Usually we wait until summertime to offer that, but we met as a team and felt it would benefit our students more, since we all know that learning builds upon itself and it's going to help them understand the material they're covering now. We had just started and we already had about 20 to 25 students attending, so
Thank you. Next is our high school principal, Dr. Teresa Nash.
Homecoming has been rescheduled again, so we will have that on Monday night, in between the varsity girls and the varsity boys game. Varsity girls game starts at 5. Students are going to be voting on their candidates, whoever they choose for homecoming king and queen on Monday. And then students will get to pick which spirit day they like the best, and that's the one they dress up for on Monday. So looking forward to it.
Thank you. Our Special Services Director, Miss Melissa Dalton.
Right now for our department, we've got 11 initial evaluations going and 17 reevals. Amy Phipps, our compliance director for our region, came the end of January to visit with us, and she's coming back April 5th to visit with Dr. Dial and Dr. Hall and I on early childhood special ed, and then she's also going to visit with our high school teachers on transition information. And then we have a behavior analyst scheduled to start coming once a month. Right now, just to kind of see how that goes, at least once a month, and then we may have to increase that. And Math A teachers did a great job. First semester, we have 3 of those. Ms. Jessica Hudson, Ms. Wanda Johnson, and Ms. Leslie Martin did a great job with their kids, got everything going, and then their fall window opened up February 1st, and so they're going again with our Math A kiddos. So,
Thank you. Our Maintenance Director, Monty Valentine. I got the hall wrong.
Oh, I love it.
Snow and ice is what we've been dealing with on all sidewalks, and we're doing our best to everything ready for the ball game tomorrow night.
Thank you. I don't know if I said it last meeting or not, but welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Next is our Food Service Director, Yvonne Honorkamp.
I've got menus and everything, so I didn't know if we were going to have any snow days made up for our spring break or not, so I'll add to it if need to, but I left those days open. We've been working with just kind of switching the menu up and doing a little bit of changes according to feedback on the kids that we've gotten. Our second option is usually a cold option. We've taken Wednesdays and made that another warm option where we're serving something like a corn dog or a cheeseburger or the little Crispitos, which is kind of like a big taquito roll. They're really liking that. So we're going to continue doing that, see how it goes, and trying to get more feedback and just getting out there and asking the kids. And if any of the parents or anything have, any questions or if they want to give feedback, any of them are free to contact me whenever they want to. So if you guys have any questions or anything, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is, good. Next is our Principal and our Executive Administration reports, Dr. Jason Dial.
So, not much on just current finances. We're right now at a 93% proration factor. If you remember, there's $125 million that was withheld. It's not been released yet, so this month we're at 93.009. They anticipate, I was on a call with the commissioner today, they anticipate that moving to about 96. But the governor is going to have to release that 125 to get to 100%. Really, we're in pretty good shape just due to the fact that the enormous amount of COVID dollars that we've received this year has been able to alleviate some other budget issues that we may have had. So I feel really comfortable on where we are financially. Obviously recommending full funding for next year is a bonus for us. So more to come on that as it works its way through the legislature. I think it was flat. I think he's recommending flat on transportation and full funding for the currently. So financially, I feel like we're in good shape. If you look at Prop C, go down just a little, yeah, Prop C. So Prop C is the 1% sales tax, and you can see how that fluctuates. It's interesting how it fluctuates. So February we'll get tomorrow. I anticipate it being high because it will be December collections. So we see it the next month, we see it the month after it's sent in, processed, and then kicked out. So that's the 1% sales tax we anticipate seeing. And we saw a drop in that in November. It was actually January collection. I think we'll see an increase in that tomorrow. So anyway, and why transportation dropped so much, there was not a good explanation for that. You see that got cut in half last month. Really have not seen a quality explanation for that. So anyway, any questions about that? Because I have more interesting things to talk about.
Did they ever stipulate what they were gonna do about funding as far as how we could spend it, not spend it?
For ESSER 2?
For all the stimulus money, yeah.
That's what this is right now. That's my next topic.
Okay.
So, all of it, the whole packet goes. Okay, so this is, did you have an extra one? Yep. Hold on, I may have missed, no, you got it, okay. Here's the one.
Dan's is
Yeah, this one's thicker.
This one's thicker.
Oh, because that's the original and she double-sided everything else.
Oh,
So these, you give that to Mr. Dole. Give that to me.
one for Darren needs one.
Dan needs one, give that to Mr. Dole. All right. So this is the memo that came out February 1st on ESSER 2. So it just, this whole thing talks about how money can be spent. It gives, you have each allocation by school district. So for AVA, we will receive $1,792,296 is what we will be able to draw down. They will not be sending us a check. Okay? It is reimbursable, so it has to fall into one of the 15 categories that you will see on page 4 and 5. So on page 4 and 5, it follows along with ESSER 1, except when you get to 14 and 15 on the second page. And then there's a summer school option, which wasn't in ESSER 1. But those are all the categories that we'll be able to spend the dollars in. So what will happen is the school district will decide what its priorities are. You will bid the project out. You will have the project implemented. You will pay for it. And then we will request reimbursement from the state to get that money back. You have until September of 2023 to spend those dollars. Okay, so the state will hold those dollars. And we have until September of 2023 to spend it. So, just some examples that we could spend them on. We currently have 55 HVAC units. Remember, this is one-time money, so I'll talk about that in a minute as well. We have 55 HVAC units that are anywhere between 1987 and 2009. We did a huge project in 2014 and 15. Am I saying that, Monty? Correct, Monty? And replaced about half of our air units. But we still have 55 HVAC units that are span between 1987 and 2009. One of the categories is environmental health. We obviously have lots of asbestos still at the elementary and in the West High School. Since that falls under an environmental issue, we could remove it. Just want to remind you, as we plan for this, this is one-time money. So my recommendation as we move forward is to not spend these dollars on recurring expenses. But that will alleviate some dollars that in our regular district budget that we might be allocating for those HVAC units or that asbestos removal. So it's going to alleviate some other dollars that we may want to do something that doesn't fit one of these 15 categories. Well, we could budget for those things because we're taking care of the Fund 4 projects out of these funds. But I would just hesitate making it recurring expense. Okay? I will work to prioritize those projects over the next month and bring you a list. The next pot of money that I think Dan and I have talked about, I think we've talked about as a board, is Biden's infrastructure bill. We still don't know a whole lot about that. It's moving its way.
There's 130 billion in K-12, and it looks like it's gonna stay.
So, and I would agree with that. So you're looking north of 4 million at that point. What the requirements are gonna be, we're not quite sure. I'm still waiting on that. So as soon as I have that information, infrastructure to me means possible building, possible renovation. That's what I see as infrastructure. Don't quote me on that until I get the regs and know exactly what it looks like. I've heard of another one too, an ESSER 4 that's bigger than ESSER 3. So it's an ever-changing landscape for us. But I will work with Monty, work with building principals and teachers and start looking at projects and bring you some ideas. Obviously in that infrastructure bill, we talked about having some community meetings and some community thought processes about if we want to build that. Once we have some more ideas of what that's going to look like, I think that's where we need to be. These are one-time dollars. It won't take long to get through 1.7 million, I don't think. But at 4 million, it could take a little while, and we're going to really need to put some thought into that process. So, any questions about that at this point? This is a lot to digest. Please take it home, read it, call me with questions, please. I've read it 2 or 3 times because I found things in it each time. And so write this number down so it's easier to find Ava's allocation. 034124 is our district code, or you will spend forever trying to find the district. 034124. That's how you find, and those go in numerical order, but the district name does not. It's on page 3 or 4, I think. Okay? So OPA versus district, I just want to give you an update on kind of where we are, try to keep you up to date. So the numbers I'm going to give you are really misleading, but there's really no way to do a true comparison until we get through the semester. So in February of 2020, the cost of food service between the bill we paid OPA and our district employees that worked for OPA, we paid out $62,069.63. That's what BJ paid. So when you look at this year, the bill timing is probably a little different. So it looks a little odd. We've calculated the current cost this month is $43,715.09. That's what we paid Springfield Grocer, Highland Dairy, Town and Country for bread, and our employee cost. So, but I don't know that those are apples to apples. So once I get through the semester and we have a full slate of semester bills, I think that'll be a little bit truer picture. We're down, we have 76 virtual kids that aren't eating. But our reimbursement rates are higher because everybody's eating for free at this point. But I'll give you a better, as we move forward, I think that'll true itself up. Okay? We started second semester with our current staffing levels. We did add 1 part-time person at the high school to help alleviate just some workload. We're probably going to have to continue to do some adjustments on that. Part of that is, again, we're not in a regular year, so the high school feeds in the cafeteria, they feed out in this commons area, and then they feed over to the concession stand. So the high school feeds in 3 different spots, so that takes 4 people away from the cafeteria currently, because we do that for social distancing purposes. At the middle school, half the school eats in the cafeteria, half the school eats in the classroom. At the elementary school, it's half and half as well. So we're still, it takes more people to do, because we're delivering food and, so I think as we move through the year and try to get back to normal as much as possible, we'll have a little better feel on staffing. There's gonna need to be some adjustments. We may be able to increase hours of a few people that have been here for a long time and not have to hire somebody else. We're gonna look at those individually. I'll work with Yvonne to make those decisions, but we did bring a part-time person in to help alleviate at the high school. So we have increased half a person from when we started at this point.
Do we know how many people we have that are part-time that want to be full-time?
I'd say every one of them want to be full-time.
About how many?
So we only have 4 that work 30 hours a week or more, 4 to 5. And then we have another, Yvonne's not sitting in here, she went home to fix frozen pipes, I think. We probably have 8 or 9 that work under 30 hours a week. That'd be about right. Yeah, sounds about right.
So are they close?
Some work 5 hours a day, so they work 25. Some work 4.5 hours a day, so they work 22 and a half. 25, 26 is about the most on the part-time person. So some of those part-time people will go to full-time. Obviously, that increases the district's responsibility because of insurance and retirement and all that. But we did move some that were part-time to full-time that did receive benefits. So our head cook at the elementary, we had some district employees that stayed full-time. They were full-time, that stayed full-time. We will look at those staffing needs and try to, look at longevity and those that want to move first to a full-time basis as we need it. Okay? But overall, going well. Growing pains, just like anything. I know I've talked to many of you. We've had good feedback from kids, but we're learning as well. There's growing pains throughout it, so we are figuring it out as we go.
I think it's going great so far. Way better than I thought.
Yeah. So
Participation rates are going up, are they?
yeah, they were up last month. We only really served a week and a half,
Right.
so they weren't comparable to look at this month. So we'll look at them again next month. But participation's been good. All right. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Aaron Dalton.
Wanted to elaborate a little bit on something I mentioned there. We were notified of a grant opportunity through Missouri State. It's a computer science focused grant for rural schools. We were on their target list. We sat in, Mrs. Nelson and I and Dr. Hall. Really what we're doing at this point is just keeping our foot in the door. So we got notified about it. We're going to visit with teachers, and then we've been snowed out ever since. But as we went through that, they're talking about providing training for teachers, helping them design lesson plans. And let me back up. It's intended for 3 to 5 teachers over a 3-year period that would go through the training. Some of the workshops during the summer, they're paying the teachers a stipend for that. So it sounds pretty good, at least on the introductory part of that. Basically at this point, we're not committed to anything. It's basically going to be sitting down with some teachers and seeing if we've got some folks interested. It sounds like a good opportunity, so at this point, really just keeping our foot in the door so we can keep getting information until we get teachers back on site and have some conversations and just share that information and see if that's something we want to pursue. We acquire technology, we see all these things that are out there, but, you know, as we're talking about incorporating some of just the computer technology into existing lessons is what appealed to me. So we're gonna at least pursue that and see if we've got some folks that are interested.
3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, correct?
3 through 8.
3 through 8.
So it could be any, that age range. Another thing I wanted to follow up on, we do every spring, start some of our federal programs meetings. I know I'd shared this before, something unintended out of some of the COVID measures. We'll still offer in-person meetings for those, just to share information and give feedback. I will also be offering them virtually online. We had to do that last spring. I had quadruple the number of people attend that way than what I've ever had attend in person. So we're going to do both and get as much feedback as we can on that. When you hear me talk about Title I, Title II, those are the programs we're taking a look at when we do those meetings. So that's coming up in the coming weeks. Talked a lot about first semester, our numbers of Fs and where we were at. Ran that information today, excuse me. And those numbers, grades 5 through 12, compared to last quarter, down 22%. Compared to last year at this time, down 18%. So that's a lot of hard work. Principals, teachers, students, maybe moms and dads too. Just a lot of folks putting in a lot of work.
We're down to 76 total virtual students.
76 total virtual students.
As of today.
This would not be popular. Look at my teachers out there. So we were doing some math. Actually, I think this conversation started yesterday, Dr. Dial and I. So you heard us talk about it on our school calendar. We're going to talk more about next year's calendar here in a little bit. We build in a certain amount of days. You're required by the state to build in a certain number of hours. But it is specifically for inclement weather. So however many snow days we miss because we build in 60 hours, we do not have to make those days up. However, the days we took off right before Thanksgiving.
The gamble.
Do what? The gamble?
We gambled.
So we again, just with, because of the workload, the stress, all the challenges the teachers were dealing with, and we had some.
Yeah, we had a high number of COVID
at that time.
cases, so we wanted a 9-day break.
So by taking those 2 days off, that made that instead of a 5-day period, we were able to make that a 9-day period when you count the weekend before. But given the number of days we've missed, we have to make up 2.5 hours somewhere. It doesn't matter if we miss 5 more snow days, the number stays 2.5 hours. We're going to visit with teachers. We have some ideas on where that would fit. I think in my mind, what's simplest is on that parent-teacher conference day. But we will visit with teachers to get some feedback, but we will have to look at 2.5 hours somewhere.
So we get out basically at 1 o'clock.
Parent-teacher
On a
conference day.
parent-teacher conference day, we just go a full day that day. Just do conferences at night. And be done.
So I know that, in my mind, that can get confusing. Weather days, because we build that calendar the way it is, you don't have to make any of them up. But those were not weather days. So even when schools closed for illness, that was technically that would have fallen into that category. And it doesn't fit the criteria on those built-in days.
In order to make that work, we would have had to send assignments home. Teachers would have had to prepare assignments, send it home with kids on that Monday, Tuesday. Got credit for the ones that turned it back in. That's the only attendance credit we got. You know, we made a conscious effort to give teachers 2 days to work, get caught up. We have to make up 2.5 hours. We think we can do that pretty easy on that parent-teacher conference day. But we want their feedback as well. So it's either that or extended day at the end of the year.
Right, just wanted to explain that. That probably creates questions, you know, because we talk all the time about having those days built in. Those just don't fit that legislation or that guidance.
If we wouldn't have missed this many snow days, we'd have what we did last year, we wouldn't be having the conversation.
Yeah, tomorrow's it.
Yeah.
That puts us over in that. But anyway, only other thing, talked about, they follow up on this. I talked last month, I think previous month, the board had asked me to share a staff retention survey to get feedback from teachers on things that they prioritize. I talked last month, I think, about doing a lot of research, surveys. I think I spent the most time reading. There's a document for the Society of Human Resource Management. You can look at their studies back to, I think, 2001. It's just an organization that's been doing that for a long time. So just tried to build a survey from those resources. Our last PD day described that to teachers, what that was, because it's not something that we have done since I've been here, at least not like that. And just told them, if there are things that the district's doing well, we want to know. If there are things we have got to get better at, we want to know that also. We're going to be sharing that with you, just a ton of information. Folks, there's some real positives that we need to be proud about. There's some real negatives that we're going to sit down and go through. You know, something that's clear, that's wanted and needed. Frankly, this is something Dr. Dial and I have talked about for a year and a half. We've got to go through a process for some long-range planning. You'll hear us talk about CSIP plan, that's what that is. Our plan was to start that this fall. The COVID situation being what it was, it just didn't make sense to ask folks to take that on. That's something that clearly we need out of that, but we're going to be sharing that information.
Talk to Mr. Strong a little bit. That's more than we can share sitting here, because we'd be here for a couple hours. It's probably a work session item. We probably need to schedule a work session, and then between now and the next meeting for us to get together, go through that. We'll give it to you so you can digest it, but then be able to sit down and go through it. We're taking more time than we have here. So work session's open to the public, anybody can come, but it's what it is, it's a work session. To ask questions, to go through it question by question, comment by comment, and really have time to have a discussion as a board about what it says. So, based on our conversations, I'll send out some dates, try to figure out what works for everybody, and get something set up. Is that okay with you?
Good with me. Oh, snow now.
Hopefully not.
So that's all I've got.
Thank you, sir.
This is Nelson.
Yeah.
When he mentioned grant, it made me think about the $8,000 STEM grant. Is it 8,000?
Yes, 6 or 8, I can't
Yeah,
remember.
6 or 8 that we just got at the middle school.
Mhm.
So something we had looked at, we'd applied for, funding was kind of held up, the governor released it. Mrs. Swadish and Mrs. Nelson worked hard on that to implement science technology. Project Lead the Way at the middle school. We've been doing it anyway, but it's going to allow us to buy some additional items for that.
Yes,
So,
hopefully it will help us fund our programs through next year.
yeah, so we did get announcement that we did get that. I think we got that a week and a half ago, is that right? Had to send some documents in last week.
Mhm.
So we're excited about that. So it's state level dollars that we applied for and received, but then it was withheld and then it's been released.
Right.
So, anyway, that's it.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Next item is our discussion and action items. First one up is library media program review. Ms. Nelson.
Okay, so I gave rating scales to each of the building librarians, and it's based on a rating scale of 5, and they rated themselves 4.6, noting strengths as far as the library program being beneficial to students' education. They also saw areas of growth overall in the organization of their program and the budget. So I'm just going to kind of give you a breakdown by each building. Okay, elementary, new to them this year, they had a library system upgrade. I believe that's on how they check in and out their books. They purchased some new chapter books, and then they also had a Google Classroom. And I know middle school had one too, and I believe the high school did as well, which really helped out with our quarantine students as well as our virtual students still having access to materials. They also, in the elementary, purchased 5 iPads, and then just the overall organization of the library materials. Areas of concern for the elementary library, as Mrs. Ewing noted, inconsistent Wi-Fi usage out there. She also noted a high number of books, I believe $800 in lost books due to COVID, just where they weren't returned. And then the additional yearly loss of books that just aren't turned in. So of course, recommendations, she would like to improve the Wi-Fi, purchase additional iPads, and a plan, and this is one thing that was across the board for all 3 buildings. They would like a plan to hold students accountable for items that aren't returned, because they feel a lot of their funds are being lost replacing those items each year. This year, we also surveyed our teachers and our students. I worked with each librarian and let them come up with the questions, and then we sent out Google Forms and surveyed to get some feedback. Teachers in the elementary found library as a vital resource, but they do recognize it could use better funding. Students liked the graphic novels, would like to see more, and they also wanted to have more time in the library to read and do the activities that are available. In the middle school, each grade has a certain checkout day, and that's due to COVID restrictions so that they're not all down there mixing at the same time. And this year, she was also able to, in the past, she's taught a 6th grade computer class. This year, we were able to make it a 5th grade computer class, which Mrs. Klaus appreciated because then she could kind of go over the new library routine since it's a new building with those students. And she's also giving them instruction on the MLA citation template, which is something that our high school librarian had noted she'd like to see. Strengths were labeling the books by genre to make it easy for students to locate the type of book they're looking for. She's also tried to increase the amount of digital materials as well as print materials, which once again helps with our virtual and our quarantine students. As well as having those materials available to teachers too, as far as professional journals. Areas of concern are the outdated metal shelving in the library, and we're kind of working and hoping, this is a plug, that we can get some wooden shelving, lower the bookcase so that we can see across the room. She would also like to see a change in the size of the library, which is another thing we've talked about, and then she notes the yearly loss of books as well. So of course she's recommending new shelving, and once again that plan to hold students accountable for those lost items. On her teacher survey, once again, librarian being helpful, efficient, knowledgeable. Teachers noted their greatest concern was library not being open all day because of course it closes for an hour while she's teaching that 5th grade computer course. Students found the librarian to be helpful. They really liked their library environment, the available books, but once again, they would like to have more opportunities to visit the library throughout the day. High school, she has a new Instagram page where she's posting updates on new books, series, and days in history. She noted strengths as the fiction section and also said that was the most heavily used section, and she organizes it by genre as well. And they also have a database that's used by students and teachers. And then once again, that area of concern is she would like to see that MLA taught across the district, not just high school and the 5th grade. And then she noted the yearly loss of books as well. So of course, all of them would like to see some sort of a plan, and I don't know what the answer is, to hold students accountable or more money in their budget to replace those materials that are being lost every year. I forgot to note on her survey, her students found that, let me see, they noted that she was very helpful in helping them find materials when they couldn't find it or ordering them if they requested them. And then they would also like to be able to go to the library more often. So I think just due to COVID restrictions, it's really cut down on students' ability to visit the library whenever they could, and they've noted that in their survey. Any questions?
I think lost books is an issue, obviously. That's something we'll work with principals and librarians to try to figure out if we can come up with a system to hold kids accountable for returning the items that they borrow. It's just I thought, we always get the money as long as they graduate from here. Dr. Nash does a great job of holding them. Doesn't matter if they owe something in 5th grade, those fines, but it takes a long time to get it. So we may need to come up with a little better system than that.
Thank you for the review. I guess we need a motion to approve the library media program review. Dan makes a motion. Mark seconds the motion. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion passed 7-0. Next up is our health services program review. I think we have some nurses here to talk to us.
Come on up, Wendy. Bring your people with you.
They're right here. On each side. Push me up here. So on the health services review that I passed out, we scored a 4 or 5 on everything, which is agreed, strongly agreed, with the exception of number 4, which is adequate funding is made available. That's what I always score low on. I feel that the ones that say this just repetitively say we can always use more funding. I don't feel they really realize that this year we've done better than ever with that COVID money that's been able to buy some of our supplies for us. Mr. Dial's done a great job of checking on us and making sure if we are low on something, he's found other avenues to get things for us. Some of our vendors that we've relied on over the years have been unable to provide equipment and personal protective gear to keep us going. The beginning of the year, the health department was great to share gloves with us too. They've been great. So I feel like that's the only thing about funding that they could have brought up because we've done very well in that category this year. With that funding, we were also able to get those quarantine booths. Those have been a great addition to our offices, not only for COVID, it's for flu, it's for kids that are sneezing and blowing stuff 5 feet across the air. We can usher them into our little booth. There was a lot of concern with nurses back during the summer. We did a lot of little teleconferences with our Missouri State representative, with all that free time that we had. A lot of other districts were worried about stigma, putting kids in these booths and everything. We have polka dots on ours in the elementary, and the kids actually want to go in there. I have to tell them they can't. No, you can't go in there. I have to clean it up. You do, so come on. Also, our teachers have been amazing. I was shocked, really. Normally, most years, we see 80 to 100 kids in each office. This year,
A day.
a day, yes. You know that because we give you the numbers. So if you've been seeing those numbers, you realize we're seeing maybe 40 on a bad day, 55, 60, but mostly those numbers are low. And in the beginning of the year, it was maybe 15. It's just gradually become more as kids are coming back. So we provided them with a few little first aid kits, not a lot, mostly just Band-Aids and cough drops. And they have weeded out the ones that really didn't need to go, and then sent us the ones that really did need to be there. On another positive note, all of the programs that we've offered a little extra in the past, we've still been able to do. Our tooth truck still came from the mock. We still did our fluoride program, and MSU was here just recently in the elementary to do their vision screening. The only thing we haven't done that we did say no to was the Delta Dental. They come and they do a play in the elementary, and we all gather in a great big group. Normally we do that every other year, so we didn't really tell them no, we just said put us off one more year. And that's pretty much all I have. Unless you have a question.
Any questions?
has a few things to say too. Hello. On the survey that we did, the middle school and high school, their survey ratings were a little bit different in their numbers than the elementary survey. For hours, 1 equals frequently exceeds expectations, 2 occasionally exceeds expectations, 3 meets expectations, 4 needs improvement, and 5 fails to meet expectations. And so we added all of our numbers together, and the average was 1.17, so I was really happy about that. Staff has been great to work with. At the beginning of the year, we wasn't really quite sure how we were going to navigate the program as far as kids coming in, because we've been used to having so many kids come in. But we communicated with the teachers, sent out emails, and so we just asked those teachers, can you please give us a heads up if you need to send a student? That way, if we had sick kids in there, we could just handle it better than having lots of kids in one room at the same time. So they've been fantastic to work with, so I really appreciate all of them. So we thank you for your time, and I'm just so happy that I am able to work in this department.
Change for the middle school, high school. So Lindsay had a really small office. Mrs. Nelson worked really well with us to be able to expand that office. We were not going to be able to isolate kids in the middle school, high school. So we were able, she's got, now took a wall down. Now you have a full classroom basically.
Right.
So, and Lindsay's done a great job. She was with us part-time as the Cox navigator and worked at the elementary part-time, and now is our full-time nurse in that office. So we're very happy to have her.
Any questions? Thank you. We need a motion to approve the health services program review. Randy makes the motion. Do we have a second? Bart seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried 7-0. Next is our vocational program review. Dr. Nash.
So I gave you a 28-page vocational program review, so I'm going to try to condense that down just for this presentation. But each year we give our vocational and career technical education programs. They have an advisory committee that they develop, and they give a survey to find out what strengths, concerns, and recommendations they have for their programs. This year we handed out 92 surveys from local businesses, community members, parents, students, and faculty. The highest score was a 4.84, which is students benefit by being in this program and it is worthwhile. The lowest scoring was 3.39. Again, adequate funding is made available. It's always with more money, you have more resources, you have more instructional materials for your students. So I think that one is always low. The overall scale rating is a 4.30 on a scale of 1 to 5, which is very good. As far as the ag department, strengths were the accomplishments and successes that they had in the American and state FFA degrees and contests. Concerns, they would like to see more participation from their members and also a little more efficiency within their meetings, and that's something that they can work on. Recommendations from their committee was promote programs to get younger students interested in ag courses, and also teach more agribusiness courses and utilize more guest speakers. Their overall score was 4.4. Business education, we have Mrs. Embry here with us tonight. Strengths include success in state competitions with 2 students qualifying for nationals last year. Some classes are offered on a rotational basis, so students have a variety of courses that they can take. And also it provides leadership workshops and competitions for our students. Concerns, lack of computer skills that need to be taught at earlier ages. That would help their program immensely. Recommendations from their committee, another teacher would expand the program and offer more opportunities for our students. Make personal finance as a full year course or offer a class that focuses on the economy, stock market, and taxes. And continue to utilize guest speakers for the local businesses and the community. Her overall score was a 4.56. New this year, we had Project Lead the Way Computer Essentials. Again, this is a new course. We also offered another computer class, computer coding. Students received cutting-edge technology skills and instruction. Concerns, again, this is a first-year program, so we want to grow that program. We want to expand coding and program course to lower grade levels, and also encourage more students to join the program. In addition, we'd like to increase the number of presentations from individuals in the field. Recommendations, offer more coding classes to where they can have more than one coding class throughout their high school career. Overall score was a 4.5. Family and Consumer Science offers food, as far as strengths, offers food and skills in the food industry, nutrition, family budgeting, child development, daily living skills, budgeting, paying for taxes, cars, and insurance. Another strength that they had was up-to-date equipment for their students to use in their class. Concerns, they would like to see FCCLA participation and class enrollment increase. Recommendations, make parents in the community more aware of skills being taught, recruit students to enroll in their courses, and increase opportunities for class trips to visit businesses related to the class. The overall score for Family and Consumer Science was 4.5. Health Sciences, this is a new class that we have this year. Mrs. Pearson is here. She teaches those courses for us. As far as strengths, excellent prerequisite course for working in the medical field. Also offers skills for real life, and the course is taught by a registered nurse. Concerns, COVID has encumbered the lab component of practicing these skills on patients. We have an agreement with Heart of the Ozarks Nursing Facility, and due to COVID restrictions, they were not able to do that this year. And also increase class enrollment. Recommendations, continue to work on articulation agreements with the college and university. Revise and expand the curriculum when DESE releases their new framework, and then provide more hands-on activities. So the overall score for health sciences was 4.3. Industrial technology, strengths, hands-on experience for students. Students develop problem-solving skills to diagnose mechanical problems, and also basic automotive services are offered to faculty, students, and the district. Concerns, would like to offer more advanced courses, and also would like Skills USA membership to increase. It decreased this year due to cancellation of some competitions and also limited interactions. Recommendations, offer 2 hours of construction in order to reach more students. So the overall score for industrial technology was 4.17. Any questions?
I don't know that my question is really specifically with you or general. I've always wanted to do better on the vocational side of it. And number 11 on here, what we can spend money on out of all this money we're getting is basically summer vocational. So along with that, how do you get kids to participate? How do you know what to offer? I think that the first thing to do about that is you have to increase funding for summer school teachers to get somebody certified. Do we have people like, I'd like to see the old-fashioned carpentry class come back. That's probably not the terminology they use for it.
It's now called construction trades, and we offer that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we
It's a
build
1-hour class, and they're recommending a 2-hour class, which we have done in the past.
You know, back in the day when I was in high school, they built a house through the school year. The thing that bothers me about offering vocational is they're required to take so many classes, I think 23 and a half hours, you can correct me. Then that doesn't leave very much for electives. And I know we offer classes that kids want to take, and their 28 credits are gone pretty quick. So the only way that I know that you can offer a vocation is through the summer. If we don't have an instructor, I don't have a problem going to another school or somewhere getting them. Maybe we want to steal them away from wherever they're working. So I mean, it's just throwing out an idea.
So we have summer school funding as well.
Yeah.
You know, that will pay for those classes. And yeah, I don't know that I've done it here. In other districts, I've hired teachers from other school districts that maybe that school district didn't offer the class. Driver's ed is a perfect example. We pull people from everywhere to teach driver's ed at a previous school because you didn't have enough. So that's, you can absolutely offer those classes in the summer.
See, there you go, there's something we can put on that funding.
You can pay for it through summer school funding.
But we really need to address pay for.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, that would be through, that's absolutely part of our salary committee
Because to me,
conversation.
the way I look at it is your instructor, is your recruiter.
Yeah.
So you need to find an instructor and say, we'll help you put this together, whether it be in our school. You said we could bring kids from other schools.
Yeah, it's open enrollment.
I mean, that's money.
Yep.
So right now, we don't have any of these classes in the summer, is that correct?
Right now, we let teachers say, hey, they volunteer to teach these courses in the summer. So if they volunteer to teach those courses, then yes, we would offer them, if we had enough students who were interested.
So how many students do you have to have interested to have the class?
About 15.
So we try to have, some have less,
Yeah,
some
I'm just
have
curious.
more. We try to average 15 across the board.
We might have to do something a little less to start with to get the program on.
Correct. And that's what, we just try to average across the board 15.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, you're going to see, a PE class that's going to have 35. That helps carry some other classes too.
And I realize you can't, I'm throwing a whole bunch of stuff out here, just
That's
ideas. I would really like to see a certified welding instructor in class to where when these kids leave, they are actually certified, not just kind of sort of tacking stuff together, but they can really weld. And they can take that certificate and it means something and go somewhere and get a job. Because all these kids can't all go to college. Somebody's got to do the labor somewhere. I just want to see more vocational. And I think the summertime, if you can make it work, is the way to do it.
Well, if it's summer school funding, that helps. Pays those bills too.
Yeah.
Helps the regular school year. Okay.
We're good? We need a motion to, thank you. We need a motion to approve the vocational program review. Mark makes the motion. Do we have a second? Dan, second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried 7-0. Next item is our school calendar for the 21-22 school year. Mr. Dahl.
All right. So this is not going to be a recommendation for a calendar. This is going to be, I'm sharing information and looking for some guidance and direction from the board. That's what this is going to be. We had come up at a meeting, I think a couple of meetings ago, about a 4-day school week. Okay? So we had a preliminary meeting with my calendar committee, got some ideas, feedback from their buildings, followed up with the entire staff at our February 1 PD day, just sharing that information, making sure buildings had the information we were looking at, and then I circled back with the calendar committee. Okay, I'm going to share tons of information here. So the simple, straightforward, if we do a traditional 5-day-a-week calendar, I don't want to say unanimous, but from those committee members, that gets pretty straightforward. Folks want a full week of Thanksgiving, 2 full weeks of Christmas, a full week of spring break, building our days, those are protected. That gets easy, okay? The one that takes some more work, and I'm going to share lots of information here, is the 4-day school week, okay? I'm going to go through what the feedback is of what teachers are looking for, what the positives are from that, and then we'll talk about the concerns that those committee members have. So the first thing, the feedback was if we could get that into, or we would still get out of school in late May, that was almost a requirement. You know, whenever we first talked about it, I said, and I think it's the second week of June, if we did that, and again, that's extending the school day, okay? Positives, and I think Ms. Debbie brought those up before. What districts see that go to a 4-day school, okay? The positives they see are attendance improving for staff and students, okay? That is pretty widely accepted. That is a benefit that they see from that. Part of that is just being able to schedule appointments and things on that built-in day that they have off during the week. Recruitment and retention, that is part of that. You will see some references in those surveys to 4-day school week. And that wasn't a specific question, that was just a comment that a few folks made. You know, some good that came, lots of good came from these conversations. That was worded poorly. Something we were able to do, teachers shared calendars from other districts. We looked through how folks that are doing a 4-day week have structured that. I don't have that into May just yet, but I think we could get there, all right? If, again, we wanted to pursue this. So those are some of the positives around that, the feedback from within the buildings. Concerns, we talked about some of them. It is the length of day. All right, you know, the consensus seems to be it would have to be that 8 to 4 amount of time to be able to get that in by the end of May. That absolutely, and teachers express this, you know, we would have kiddos getting on the bus at 6 o'clock and not getting off the bus till 6 o'clock, or roughly.
So talk to each bus driver.
That's what it is, that's what I can.
Do you have that in front of you?
No, I don't.
Okay, so
6:15 right now.
6:15 currently is our first pickup. We have one route that she doesn't have that part of the route right now because nobody lives there. It's 5 to 6 if somebody moved into that. 6:15 is currently our first pickup. I went to each bus driver and just asked the question.
But that was a concern specifically mentioned from those committees. Length of the day, just in general. You know, I think this specifically came from an elementary teacher. I was talking about a first or second grade student in school from 8 to 4, and that's discounting what the bus day would look like for them. You know, that's a concern. I think today, I had a teacher bring up, you're talking about going from 166-day calendar to what would be more like a 138-day calendar. All right, so the question becomes, hey, how am I covering the same material? The easiest way I have to explain that, I mean, yes, your days are longer. Middle school, high school is the example I use to explain this. Basically, each class period would get 6 minutes longer. That is oversimplifying that, but just for the sake of explaining this, that's the simplest way to do it. You know, if I'm adding 45 minutes to each day, I have 7 class periods, I'm adding roughly 6 minutes to each class period. Well, all of a sudden, I'm trying to make up all those days 6 minutes at a time. Well, that was a question the teacher asked. How does that work? You know, you were talking about a restructuring of your lesson plan to accommodate that. Childcare on off days. And Dr. Bile mentioned, you know, what that looks like in some of the districts. That was a concern that was mentioned. Something else just is now the right time. You know, with still some of the unknown with COVID measures and distancing, you know, is now the time to tackle this because it is a significant change with some of the unknown that we still have lingering. So I guess what I am asking, and I want to be clear, it was not, I don't want you under the impression, hey, this is 100% every teacher is for this, because that's not where we're at. But the majority of the committee felt like in their buildings, hey, we would at least like to have this discussion. I guess what I'm asking the board, based on your conversations, your feelings, you know, this has to be the kind of thing where we're having community meetings and surveys and going through that. This is not And I told the committee that, typically committee goes through, has discussions, we approve a calendar. The differences we're talking about is, are we off a full week of Thanksgiving or 3 days of Thanksgiving? Those kinds of things, we just, once we have a vote, survey results, those are pretty easy to do. I told the committee guys, even if it is 100% on the teacher side, we gotta go to the community. This is not something we just get to decide. So that's the guidance I guess I'm looking for, and the information I have from those calendar committees.
You're saying 138 days in June with 45 minutes?
I was adding 45 minutes.
And it'll be in June, the last day.
I believe I can get it to the end of May. Now, if you're shortening Thanksgiving, you're shortening, yeah.
I don't have a dog in the fight, so I'm for what everybody wants to do, and I really think eventually you're gonna go to a 4-day school week. But I'm not telling people that's what we're doing. Again, just like he said, that's for the community to have that discussion.
They need to decide that.
And that's gonna be a long-term, not right now thing. People are gonna be, we've started the discussion, and people now are gonna give us board members feedback. I've tried to figure this thing for hours and hours and hours. And then I came to the conclusion, I need to start the simple way. I need to add at least an hour to the day with 120 some days. I took this year's school calendar, and I figured it one time because I'm so tired of figuring it. But if I didn't make any mistakes, you had an hour to the day, and you still have your Thanksgiving vacation because you're not going to go to school on Monday. You still want Wednesday for a travel day, so you might as well take off Tuesday. You still have your 2 weeks for Christmas. Spring break is gone. There's no days in there for spring break, but you have a 3-day weekend every single week, except I assume teachers would still do PD days once a month. The teacher would have to still somehow do their PD days, but the kids would all be off. Now, again, you run into the child care thing. As far as picking up kids, I don't think you might bump it up 10 or 15 minutes in the morning. To me, the end of the day is the time where you want to add all those minutes on. Some people aren't going to like it because of child care. Some people, if you started a few minutes early, will be able to drop their kid off before 8 o'clock and go to work. And they'll be almost 5 o'clock. It'll be like 4:30, something in that neighborhood. And they might not have to have after-school care. Some kids may go home instead of going to somewhere else because the parents are going to be there very shortly if they're not there right then. It's a discussion, folks. It's not nothing to get all excited about. Let's just talk about it. But it's going to be an hour a day. I just don't see any way around it. Because June is out.
So, I guess my question would be to the board, is this something you want to talk about over the next 12 months? Do you want to try to get some decisions made? I mean, we really need to approve a calendar, obviously, this spring. So is this a 12-month conversation, or is this a 6-week conversation?
I don't think we want to even think about going there right now.
I'm just asking. We just need some direction.
I don't.
Yeah.
Not right now.
We just need some direction on where to go. We agree it's a long discussion. We can condense it and try to hurry it, but I'm not sure you get the results you want if you just try to do it. I watched the school district try to do it. They literally did it in less than 30 days, and I think part of it's been a disaster.
Well, there's going to be all kinds of unforeseen things coming up. That if you're having that conversation and people begin to think about it, whether it be the nurses or the teachers or the maintenance people, there are going to be things come up that are going to have to be ironed out. And you can't do that in a short period of time. And you may not want to.
Yeah. So we'll bring you back a 5-day-a-week calendar next month for approval for next school year. Is that what I'm hearing?
Sounds good.
Okay, we can do that. And we will continue that discussion on a 4-day week.
Yeah, because we need to ask the community
No,
We agree.
That's why, if you want me to do it, we can get started.
No,
Just looking for direction.
no.
I never brought it up.
Neither did I.
Yeah, I didn't. No, I did
Don't
not.
come for me either.
I did not.
Okay.
Good?
We're good there. We know what to do now.
But June's out, no matter what you got that. Did you catch that? I caught that 3 or 4 times.
Next item on the agenda, homeschool school students participating in mission activities. Ms. Dina.
So, in all of our discussion last month over Misha and approving the homeschool children being able to participate in sports with our school, I think some things were left out that needed to be said. So I'm the one that asked to be able to speak. I think there was a great overreaction to what we approved. I look at it like this, and I said this several times during the last meeting, whether it was heard or not over other conversations, I don't know. But there are reasons that parents homeschool. There are a lot of reasons. If their children are being bullied, they pull them out of the school. I heard this from several parents. If there is a problem with the particular administration, their children may be pulled out. I don't think that parents homeschool just to homeschool. I believe there's a problem, usually, that makes that happen. I know of several children that were bullied, that were pulled out of the school, but those children are back in the school now as students because the Ava School District has a bullying program in place, a suicide program, and several things that made that better for their children to be able to come back. So you don't have, if you have a problem like that and the children are being pulled out, I should say children, I should say students, the students are being pulled out and being homeschooled, then we have a problem. Because there's a problem in the school that needs to be addressed. Because as a public school, I feel every child should feel comfortable to come here. No matter, they should be. They should feel good, safe here. They should feel it's okay to be here. Just this week, I received a text at 12 o'clock in the morning from a very good friend of mine, and he was counseling parents of a 13-year-old that committed suicide for bullying. That child was being bullied in school. And as those parents, would you be thinking, oh, should I pull them out? Should I pull them out? Should I try to homeschool them? My grandson, I've told the story. My husband went back and got his teaching degree so he could homeschool because for 2.5 years, my grandson was a warm chair in a school and they taught him nothing. So don't you think that that's probably a child that needed to be pulled out of public school because of an issue? Because that school didn't want to correct that problem. They just said they were sorry. So as a public school, their parents pay taxes. Whether those children attend these school or not, they pay taxes in this school district. And a lot of them, because it seems to be brought up a lot that I don't have any children in these schools, and that's correct, I don't. But let me tell you something, I care about these children more than you would ever even imagine. Okay? Because of what I have seen happen. But their parents pay taxes in these schools. And these students are not going to just walk into our classrooms and they're not gonna sit down and they're gonna read a book and then they're gonna say, oh, I wanna be on the football team. And they're not gonna walk in and say, okay, I'm gonna do this and I wanna be on the basketball team. It don't happen like that. There are a lot these children will have to go through to be able to get into the school for their 2 hours, to be able to participate in these athletics or the band or the choir or whatever it is that they want to participate in. But I don't feel, and that is why I voted the way I did, I don't know about anybody else, but I know why I voted the way I did, that you can deny that to a public school. Now, you want to be a charter school? You want to be something like that? Okay. But I don't really believe that's what we want in this school district. I really don't. Now, I don't know if there's anyone here from the homeschoolers. Is there anyone here from the homeschoolers?
No, I have.
Okay. No, she is. She's out. But, okay, okay. So, I guess the thing that upset me so much is how this divided our community again. And I hate to see that. I hate to see our community divided for any reason that involves this school and how this school is operated. We do the very best we can up here. You want to talk about a very thankless, payless job? That's this one. And Dr. Dial made the comment a while ago that we don't spend hours doing this. You're wrong. If we are passionate about a subject, we spend hours researching that subject. Because before I open my mouth, I want to have all my ducks in a row. And that's just how I do things. Okay? So we do, all of us, the very, very best we can. And we try to judge what's best for the students. Because the community is affected, yes. The parents are affected, just like right now. I am all not for 4 days a week, okay? No. Okay? No. So, but that's me. But if the community says that's what they want, I don't have a student in this school, okay? But that's my opinion, okay? But if the community says that, okay, that's fine. But I'm glad it's not going to happen in the next 30 days because I can imagine that being a great disaster. But, you know, what those homeschoolers are going to have to go through to be able to be a part of this, and are you even thinking, if they come back and here they are, an 8th grader or a 9th grader, and they've been homeschooled and they see, oh, there's so-and-so, and there's my friend, and there's this, and they come back and they have a good experience. Not the bad experience when they left, but the good experience. They're going to say, hey, Mom, Dad, I want to go back to school. So we're going to gain full-time students, okay? So, I mean, there's both flips of that coin, and I think we need to understand that. Go ahead, Dr. Dial.
Okay, so Summer Hathcock called me. I talked to her this week. She was unable to make it tonight. So she sent me an email and she asked me to read it. It says, Dr. Jason Dial, here's what I want to say at the board meeting. Sorry for not being able to make it. Thank you for doing this. My name is Summer Hathcock and I've homeschooled for almost 15 years. I've also taught in the public school system. To me, the public school system is there for every child, so no child gets left behind. The choice to homeschool to some, like me, is a necessity because academically the school system was failing my child. That in itself should not hinder a student from the ability to participate in athletics or activities. From the last board meeting, there seemed to be some confusion on the standards and regulations that MSHA has put forth for homeschooled students to be eligible to participate in sports and activities. There were concerns brought up about if this would be good for the students in the public school setting and if it would bump AVA into a higher category for sports. The students, parents, and faculty can not deny a student enrolling into a school system in education if they have met all regulations set forth. Along with depending on how many students enrolled, the district would need a larger number of incoming students to bump AVA into the next class in sports. As a teacher, I was taught you were there for all students, and as we better our school system, that means being open-minded and allowing our students to become better. To deny homeschool students access to public school activities and sports denies them the right of due process and their property interest in the public education system that was guaranteed them by the state's constitutions. Students that are homeschooled are entitled to equal protection under the law. Refusing or access to part-time activities is a case of discrimination which is against the law. As a homeschool teacher, our students are held accountable. They have curriculum, a course syllabus, a log of hours, attendance, grades, testing, field trips, labs, and projects. Along with, if they are college-bound, they take the necessary test that the college and state require. Homeschool students fill out the same college applications that public school students have and follow the same requirements. As for the cost, as homeschool families, we contribute to and pay school taxes every year without having any of the benefits of the public school system. We buy our curriculum, computers, labs, testing, field trips, activities, so our children can be academically ready for the future. The next question is, should we have to pay into a system we do not use? Homeschool students save the American taxpayer over $22 billion annually for forgoing taxpayer-funded education. If our students are enrolled even for 1 hour, the school will receive money for that student. As a parent, we should be able to choose the type of education and extracurricular activities best suited for our children. To deny the developmental, economical, or career advantages of participating in public school sports or extracurricular activities when a student needs one-on-one teaching is not fair for the student. There are many who might say that since a parent chose to homeschool a child, then the child should not have anything to do with the public-funded school system. It is a public-funded school system. For the taxpayers' children, every child should have the opportunity which Michelle allows. There are other laws such as the Tim Tebow homeschool law, equal access, and are more in the Senate, and there are more in the Senate being looked at. I also contacted other school systems, Lebanon, Willow Springs School, that already allow and all have stated that homeschool students made their district better. Just need to make a correction there. I can't speak for Lebanon, but I've talked to the superintendents at Willow and Kabul, and that is not the case. They don't allow, they have to be a full-time enrolled student. I don't know about Lebanon. For my last statement, it is not okay for a teacher, coach, activities director to say on record or off that homeschoolers are unaccountable and not held to the same standard as public school students. The parents of homeschoolers work in the community, pay taxes into the school system, and vote just like public school parents. All of our children are the future of this community and town, so there should be no separation. Thanks, Summer Hathcock.
If you're,
I'm sure. Thank you.
okay. What Dina said about the board cares about the kids, I agree with completely. And while I'm talking, if I say we, I'm not speaking for my other board members. I don't mean it to sound like I'm the only one up here, but I'll have to say I because I don't represent them. In the discussion, it was not said, but what people heard was if we took homeschoolers, we would up our classification and we wouldn't be able to compete. That is not the case. I looked it up. Near as I can tell, we're going to have 100 kids, depending on what sport. And after I looked it up, I called Misha. The guy at Misha said the schools at some point in time during the year turn in their attendance for high school. He takes them all and averages them all out, divides them out, and as evenly as possible. So you could have the same attendance and you could move up or down based on what another school's attendance is. As near as I can tell, it does not affect our athletic standing classification in any way or nowhere close to it. Now, anybody that knows me will has heard me say, we need to have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. Here's what y'all need to understand 5 years down the road. I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you private and charter school funding becomes more of an issue with the state all the time. It started out with, we're just going to fund St. Louis and Kansas City and maybe Columbia. And now, the Senate bill, that's still not had anything done with it yet, still has in it funding for private schools based on how you look at it, another whole discussion, for towns down to 30,000. Most likely, that voucher program to allow you to take your kid wherever you want to go to school at is going to finally get here. Now, if we lose 100 kids, now one thing I noticed, and correct me on my numbers here, our enrollment before the school started was like 1,380, and then with virtual, it went to like 1,450. Is that right? Anybody? I know anyhow, it's dropped a lot since we came back from vacation.
It is, yeah.
So, in round numbers, if we get $7,000 for a student, and we lose 100 kids, it's $700,000. If we, right now, the first 2 years before COVID came along, we had $500,000 or $600,000 left at the end of the year. That went to pay building funds and raises and things like that. If we lose 100 kids, we lose $700,000. And all that extra money's gone. So what do you work on buildings with? What do you get raises with? Pretty soon you're cutting staff. If you lose another 100, I mean, it just goes on and on. It's domino. We need, and it's what I said last month, we need to have our schools so nobody wants to go anywhere else. And that is my goal, is to try to put the parts and the pieces in place so our teachers want to be here. I've had teachers tell me, you know, I may stay another 2 or 3 years if we can just fix a few things. If you give funding out, some school is going to come in here and fill the void. And all your good, educated kids and your more affluent kids probably are going to go to that charter school or that private school, and you're going to be left with behavior problems, and the quality of your education is going to diminish and your school is going to go downhill. There's a lot of people for vouchers, and I mean a lot of them. The other thing, I learned a long time ago when I was about 23 to have pretty thick skin. So criticism doesn't, critical criticism, if it's done in the right way, is a good thing. It keeps me on my toes, it makes me better. I think it makes about anybody better. But when you have people just start, they don't even know what they're talking about, they haven't done any research, they start, everybody that can get on Facebook or any kind of social media all of a sudden has a loudspeaker, and you get all these people inside it, and everybody jumps on board just like a big dog pile, and all of a sudden you've got all this criticism from school, but yet you don't even really know any facts. I'll be here tonight. Most of the board members are here. We don't just run out the door usually. If you want to talk to us, we're here. Talk to us. We'll tell you why. And yeah, when I walk in here, I want my ducks in a row. I want to know everything that's going on. So, I guess what people need to understand is if you have some actual criticism or questions that's constructive, that's a good thing. But to come in and criticize the board, or to go out on social media and criticize us, that's not helping the community, that's not helping the school, it's detrimental. because like Dina said, I agree 1,000%. It divides the community. So I guess my question is how do you get people to stand back and look at what we're doing? Because sometimes I think people, me included, we don't really stand back and look at ourselves and ask ourselves questions about what we really think. Sometimes I kind of surprise myself when I stop and ask myself things. When we changed over the school lunch program, Troy probably, I don't know, 20, 30 hours researching it. I felt kind of left out. Dina was going over talking to the cafeteria staff. She was there a lot. My whole contribution was I sat down for about 5 hours and talked to an ex-employee about who we should put where. And Troy and I traded stories about, well, this is what I heard. He tells me this is what he heard. And these people are in agreement on what we need to do to fix the cafeteria program. So it's like the kid that had the biscuit and the gravy story. I'm going to go back to that because some of you might not have heard it. Kid was in school one morning and he had biscuits and gravy and he didn't want to eat it. Wasn't going to be any good. The teacher finally talked him into eating his biscuits and gravy.
This is not only a story, this is the truth that has happened since the food service deal was turned
Right.
around. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm telling him.
Yeah.
So not only did the kid eat that helping, he wanted more. This kid was hungry, but he wasn't going to eat that because it wasn't going to be any good. So he ate the second helping. Teacher had an extra one, he got it, he ate it all. So this kid was hungry. And I know I heard from too many people, parents were telling me all the time, this food, my kids don't like it, or I try to have dinner ready at 5 o'clock when the kids get off the bus because they're always hungry, because the food's so bad at school. And we had a 4-3 vote, folks, and we went through a lot of criticism because we voted to get OPA out of here and get the new lunchroom program in here. And I know Troy and Lowell made absolutely positive that it was going to work. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've heard all kinds of stories. These kids like this food, and there's no reason we shouldn't keep this going forever. I can't, myself, I'm outraged because where were all the people to support? This place should have been full every night. But yet, we talk about homeschool and the athletic program, and somebody mentions that we're going to change our classification and we can't compete, and you're outraged about it. Where was the outrage about the lunchroom program? So my question becomes, look at yourself and say, am I really interested in school and what's good for the kids, or am I interested in what's good for the adults? Because I want us to all be successful, and I'm here for the kids. I'm done.
So I would like to make a couple comments on that. Is you talking about the classifications for one, is you want facts, and you said your fact is that it would not change my classification.
Not that I can tell.
So what I've looked into it as well is we don't know that. Dina actually made a good suggestion of doing a survey and see what the people want. And see, we don't know how many homeschool kids might enroll in those 2 hours to participate. If there's very many, it could change that class. You're correct, the classes change. Every year, every other year. Anyway, it changes periodically because of, for one, sometimes they add a class to sports. Sometimes more schools add a certain activity, so that changes whenever they have the classification meetings. So yes, the number that is designated each year for the classification changes. That's true. We don't know. The fact is, we don't know how much this would change. So it could, in fact, change the classification. Is it, now, in my opinion, I'll say opinion, do I think that it would probably change our classification? I don't think so. I don't know how many would actually participate in this and have this, enroll in 2 hours and still do the homeschool the rest of the time. But if there were very many, I think it would. So it absolutely could. What some of it was did we have to enter, if we pass this, would all the homeschool students that are in the Ava R-1 district we would have to account for those for classification? That's not true. That's something that I have heard, and that's not accurate. It is just the ones, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Goldman, because I know you've looked at a lot of this. It's just the ones that would enroll. But we don't know how many of them would enroll, so it could change the classification. And then I'm not sure why you think we would lose 100 students. I guess I'm not following you there. I don't know how you think we'd lose 100 students.
I'm talking about losing students in case we have a private school in a voucher program 5 years from now. You can't just look at today. You gotta look at the future. As far as...
And you think that because if this decision with Mission and homeschool would directly affect the vouchers, is your point?
Yes. I think we should... I don't know that anybody's gonna wanna come here now after all this stuff that came up. But as near as I could tell, when I looked up the classifications, we would have to add 100 students to move up a class in every sport.
And you just don't think there's any way we would?
There's no way we're going to get 100 homeschoolers coming here to play ball.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know how many homeschoolers there are.
I don't know either. But here's the other thing. So I want the enrollment to increase more and more and more. Are we going to turn away people? I want our community to grow and add 50 or 100 more students, because if we had 100 more students to our school, there's another $700,000 about.
If we had 100 homeschool students, we only get credit for the 2 hours that they're enrolled, so that's not 700,000. That's not 7,000.
I'm not even talking about homeschoolers when I'm talking about, let's say another factory opened up like Copeland and they moved in a whole bunch of people from out of town and our enrollment went up 100. We would move up the classification. Are you going to tell those kids they can't come to school? Because I want the money. I want to be able to do buildings and teacher raises.
I think it's a completely different subject than what the subject is admission and homeschool students. I mean, yeah, if there was a bunch of people that moved in and enrolled in school, it's great. We move up classification. That's great. Everybody does pay out. Just to another point, everybody does pay taxes that lives in the Ava R-1 school system. I agree with that, but I mentioned last meeting, I don't think we're denying access. Everybody has access. That was my point. Now, do I think that this is a really big deal? Probably not. Probably not a huge deal. I mean, really,
I agree.
My point with my vote was I just feel that we did have a committee that gave us a recommendation, and I personally do feel if we're gonna, let's take sports for instance, if you're gonna wear an Ava uniform, I think you should be an Ava student. That's just the way I feel, and I don't think anybody's denied access. I know everybody that pays those taxes. They do pay taxes in the school system if they do. If they have personal property, they pay some personal property taxes. But that's not the total funding for that student's education that the school gives. And we are still not denying access just because we don't pass this homeschool dismission. Anytime they want to come and participate, they can become an Ava R-1 student if they live in the district. Anytime. Anytime within the school system. Or in the year for that matter. In the summer, they can enroll. That's all I'm saying. I just think if you want to participate in Ava schools activities, just should be an Ava student.
One thing that I left out a while ago, in Senate Bill 55, and I was hoping that the lady that brought the Senate bill to the floor has been sick for like 2 weeks, and then this week the state legislature is not in session. So one of the things in Senate Bill 55 is homeschooling, to mandate all schools in the state of Missouri to accept homeschoolers. So this could be a point that we don't even have to have a discussion about. That's coming also, whether you want it now or later, it's going to happen. right now, everybody's sitting in Jeff City playing Let's Make a Deal, because they bundled all these things, just like in one of the stimulus packages you see on TV. All these things are in that Senate bill, and they're saying, well, if we throw this out, will you vote for it? If we throw that out, will you vote for it? It's just a matter, some form of that bill's gonna pass probably. Whether or not homeschool will be in there, I don't know, but it's there.
Well, several people did have questions, and I've taken a lot of phone calls about this. And some of the questions were the suggestion you made about the Dina, that you made about the taking a survey, and if there was a way we could survey people, see what they
So
want.
what would it take to do that, Dr. Dial? Because I tried to get that answer last month.
My only, we'd have to find the homeschool network in order to get their information. The community survey, we could put on our website, and ask, put it in the paper, put it on the radio, ask people to do a survey. We could develop one, put it on our website. Just getting word to everybody, we'd have to use our media, Facebook.
So how quickly could that be done?
Mr. Dalton is the survey guru.
Mr. Guru, how long would it take to get that done?
You can put a survey
2 to 3
together in a
weeks.
short period of time. How long it would take to get
Yeah,
responses?
you'd want to leave it open for a week or two.
Okay, but how quick could you get it out?
We could have it back to
Yeah,
you.
that's tomorrow.
Put it in the paper.
Yeah, we could have it back to you in March.
Yeah, having a survey bill is not the issue.
Not
It's
the
how long
issue.
it takes to get responses
Yeah.
back.
We just put it in the paper, put it on the radio. I'm sure Tyler would help us get that.
Do we have to have a motion for that?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, I guess my point is if this,
But wait,
if this-
one-
What am I asking?
Yeah.
what?
What is he asking?
Oh, yeah.
I want to say something. I wasn't going to, but I will. This doesn't boil down to what someone thinks or what a survey shows. It's not an opinion deal. It doesn't matter. This isn't a decision that's made off of if we're going to go up a class, it's not good. And if we're not going to go up a class, it's okay. It's not about that. That's not what the decision should be made on. This decision should be made on one thing, and that is, do you think that the child in this district should have access to the public school in the district, period? And either you do or you don't, and if you don't, I can tell you right now, it's discrimination, just like what was in that letter. Look it up in Webster's. That's what it is.
And my point to that is I agree with you. Every child.
Well, then you're going to put us in a lawsuit if it has to do with going up a class or down a class. And that's why Michigan changed the rules, because they knew that the lawsuit would be on them and not on us, because they were the ones restricting them. Now they've opened it up to, it's going to be on us. But probably that Senate Bill 55, some form of that's going to come through sometime, and it won't even matter because they'll have to do it. But it doesn't boil down to opinions and surveys. It goes down to, does that child have a right to access this public school? And if you say no, I can tell you this, then the people that don't access it shouldn't have to pay taxes to it, period. And if we ever want to build a building and put the tax deal in, they should be able to opt out of it, period. I mean, that's America.
So I feel like, yes, they should have access. We should not deny access. That's what I have been saying. I just feel they all have access, and they have the right to choose.
They don't all have access. Here's a letter.
Listen.
Here's a letter from 2018 that they gave to us as a board when you didn't do it the first time. Pass that down to Mark.
What?
That
Just
student could not go full-time to school. And the parents requested that we let that student play sports. But they could
not go to school.
Read the letter. You should have had it from 2018.
I probably have read it a couple years ago. My point
But
is,
they don't all have.
is they have access. And I don't want to deny anybody the right to choose to do homeschool or do public school. I think it's a great thing that people can choose to homeschool their children. I considered it myself years ago. I mean,
What's your answer to that person then?
Do you want me to read it?
I mean,
I just feel that we're
if
not denying access. You said that it's discrimination, and I disagree with that point.
Okay.
Because they do have access. And if we did a survey, I mean, you said that it doesn't matter what the public's opinion is.
It boils down to rights, is what it boils down to.
And you think that I think that they all have the right to come to school, David.
That one can only go 2 hours.
Why? Okay, so if we go through this, you know, is that not something that, if there's some kind of medical reason or something like that, is this, you know, there's something that you could take by case basis even, but I think that the right to choose is a great thing here, that you can choose to be a homeschooler, you can choose to be a public school student. Every family has that choice, and then with that choice comes, do you compete in the sports and the activities in the public school or not? That's part of the choice.
So you're gonna have a committee that decides if they can do it or not?
I got one question. How is it detrimental to our school system if we allow homeschoolers to play ball?
How is it detrimental to the school system? Well, for one, I just feel like if you're going to be a student, play activities, wear the uniform, participate, then you should be a student.
How is it detrimental to the school?
I guess I don't know how is it going to affect the school?
How does it hurt our
us?
school if a homeschooler comes here and plays ball?
Oh, well, here's a scenario here's a scenario you talked about. It could gain enrollment, and I think there's a chance, and this is one of the comments that was made to me, there's a chance that it could decrease enrollment. There could be somebody that has a great athlete, a gifted athlete. We've seen those around the area. We've seen those here in Ava. And they decide that I'm going to go ahead and homeschool my student, and we're going to go ahead and even make them better, which is fine. But you're talking about increasing enrollment by giving them private lessons during the day as well. And again, this doesn't have anything to do, I don't have anything against homeschooling or public school students. I'm not saying anything against homeschool students. I know a lot of friends of mine do it, and they do a fine job. But you would have, because of the more flexible schedule, and that is what they have, they can go to maybe more private trainings and things like that, and to increase their athletic ability or maybe musical ability or something like that these public school students wouldn't have. They might see, that's a pretty good opportunity. I might choose to homeschool.
They'll lose 1 year of their high school sports if they do.
If they do it
There's a 1 year wait.
If they do it in, say, 6th, 7th grade?
We're talking about high school. That's what this is all about.
Well, then
sports.
that rolls over into high school is what I mean, and later.
I don't think so. If you're already in high school sports and you go to homeschooling, you will lose 1 year, right, Josh?
365.
365 days.
Transfer.
Yeah, what I'm saying is you could see this in somebody before they get into high school, go ahead and choose to homeschool. Sit out 365 days and be there ready for their freshman year.
Well, that's a lot of ifs.
I think there's a lot of ifs in every scenario. I'm just saying, I just believe that everybody pays taxes, everybody does have access. I just think they should be enrolled in Ava school. So the other thing that we didn't mention also is, when does this take place? Can homeschoolers do this spring? Or will it be for next school year? When does this take? Did it take effect immediately? So it's like with
we
spring
haven't adopted. There's in that option 2. There's some variables that we will, and you were supposed to check into that.
Yeah.
So we haven't completely got all the finalization yet.
So they're not yet, not quite yet. It'll probably be for next,
finalized yet.
probably be for next school year, if it gets finalized by then.
As soon as we know the rules and what we're going to be requiring of them, I'd say before the next sports season or whatever. We haven't heard from Doll on that yet. Were you going to work on that?
We have been looking at it
Okay.
and figuring out what we have in place that would work too. Because I think the process is, I ensure that they are staying up with their studies and making academic progress.
But is that something that What does that matter, Mark?
I'm sorry,
What
when it takes,
what would that matter?
I don't know, it's
When
just,
they can
it's just a
start
question
support.
that people have had, whether that starts immediately or will be starting next school year. Does it matter? I don't think that matters either way, I just think it's a question that we didn't answer last meeting.
Well, we adopted option 2 of the mission requirements, and in that option 2, it leaves the district with some variables that they can adjust, and that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
So it is up to the school what will be required of the homeschool students?
To ensure that they're making progress.
They would have to be 2 hours per day, and then, but okay, so that's up to the school.
Yeah, Misha does
Okay.
have those standards already in place. But
Okay.
then there are some other variables of how we vet the student to see that, that they're up to their academic requirements.
You know, if we're gonna do a survey that I would rather see would be a survey of the homeschoolers as to how many kids are there out there in homeschool that would like to play football? How many kids out there homeschooling are there that want to participate in band activities? That would mean more to me for a survey than the other survey as to whether the community wants this or wants that. I mean, that sounds like a good survey to me, because in my mind, we're talking about, currently we have 2 band students. You know, and I could be totally wrong on this, but what I'm looking at is maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 kids. Why
That's
are
what
we
I
sitting here?
figured too.
Whoa, I'm talking. Why are we sitting here arguing over 1, 2, 3, 4 kids? You know? Why?
And in my opinion, again, just my guess is you're probably right. That's probably all it's gonna be is maybe a handful.
And if we do a survey with the homeschoolers, that'll give us even a better idea.
Oh, I agree. I think the
So
homeschoolers should
if we're
absolutely.
gonna do a survey, let's do a survey with them.
So what will that change?
Well, it would give us an idea, and it would give credits if, if we're gonna get 100 of them, or if we're gonna get 1 or 2 or 3. I mean.
So then we re-vote if we don't like the survey?
No.
We've already voted it through.
I know it's already through, but there's still a lot of people that don't like it. And, why are we sitting here arguing if it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4 students?
Information.
Huh?
We can try to provide you with information.
I'm not meaning to be argumentative. I mean, this is part of what a board does. We're just discussing some of the things. These are some of the discussions that the public has come to me with. Valid concerns, I think. And I think it's worth discussing.
But if we were talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 students, would these concerns still be there?
And like I said, I don't know that this is a big deal, but there is a lot of people that have a lot of concerns about it.
Well, maybe that will help with those concerns, I don't know, we can try it.
I got one thing to say, and I'm gonna shut up. Since June, and we've had new board members, and we have open discussion in meetings, and sometimes we allow the audience to talk, and it's raw, and it's ugly, and it's time consuming, and it looks unorganized. We could go close all this off, all this discussion, walk in here and vote and be out of here in 20 minutes. Question becomes, as the public, we want to see what we think and hear our viewpoints. If the public wants to hear those viewpoints, then you need to tone down the criticism a little bit out there on social media. Because again, this process is dividing our community and our students. And that's not where we want to be. So, from my viewpoint, if you want to keep having open meetings like we're having them, like I said, constructive criticism is good. If you want to talk, I'll be here after the board meeting. I guess maybe we don't need to have open board meetings. We'll just come in and vote and go home. Because that's what you're looking at here. Because this stuff can't keep going on. But that's the decision for the board to make, not me. But
Dr. Dial, may I say one thing? This is the first I've heard, Lowell, this is the first I've heard of any of this. So, I don't know, I done social media months ago, but, I mean, honestly, I haven't heard anything, and I work in the public every day, but, classes in sports don't matter to me. I mean, my son is in band, but, that's not my concern. But what if we get some homeschoolers in here that are better at doing what, playing sports or band or whatever? Maybe that will cause our students to work a little bit harder to progress in what they do. But it's not like they're gonna let the homeschoolers in and they can just sign up and join and start playing. I mean, they're gonna have standards that they're gonna have to meet. So, I don't know. That was just my thought, and I have not heard any criticisms or anything out in the public, so,
Well, thank you for your comment.
I have a comment.
Go for it.
It's really hard being a teacher and not allowing some of our kids in our community the right to do something, to join us. And I'm a public school teacher. My daughter went through public school. But today, the way things are, I'm not sure I would want my child in school when we're talking about different issues like bathrooms that we have to decide if you're a boy or you're a girl. I would certainly pull my kid out, but if she wanted to play volleyball, then I would dang sure expect her to be able to do that. There's things that parents have to make a decision on based on what they believe in and what they want their child to see or be a part of or witness things. I'm in 4th grade and I see kids doing things and saying things that are not appropriate around some of my girl students. And I always talk to them about that. I say, they're gonna go home and if she tells her mom and her mom calls me, then you're gonna talk to her parents. You can explain why you made that gesture, you said that. That is inappropriate. And I think as a school, as a community, these are our kids. And it doesn't matter if they're getting their education at home, it doesn't matter if they're getting it right here in my classroom. I would never turn them away. If they wanted an opportunity and it would keep them off the streets, off drugs, whatever. If it's going to improve their life, I would not deny that to that child.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that gender bathroom deal is probably something that in the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, we're gonna be seeing it.
We're gonna have to look at real close.
And then you have to think about do you want your grandkids having to be part of that? I don't.
No.
And if it was, I would have my kid out of school. I would homeschool it.
I don't want to drag this out, but I'm Barbara Deegan and I am the coordinator of the Ozark Spring Project, which is an after-school program in our school. And we do have homeschool students in it. And out of almost 100 kids, there's 4 homeschool students. So that's just one small microcosm of what you'd be looking at. So I just thought I would throw that out there too. And we welcome everybody, so.
Well, thank you.
I lied, I got one more thing. My daughter went to school here. I talk to her every night about school. How things going in school today? Good. Yet I knew things weren't good. She never complained much. Except she was always a pretty good student. I never had to really get on to her to say, you need to do your homework or anything like that. She was always a self-starter. Had I had an opportunity to put her in another school when she was in our school, I would have moved her out. And the reason is, you got two of the meanest boys in the whole class. And my daughter was one of the, as near as I could tell, one of the most well-behaved kids. Got sit between two boys at the same table. And she says, Dad, I can't even hear what the teacher says. So why did my child get punished because she was a good kid and she was a good student? That's what I want to be. You know, you can't fix everything, you can't make it perfect. But we can do better, people. And I keep trying to sell this, and I don't know how to get people to buy in. But we can do better. But we got to put all the pieces in the right spot. We got to hire the best people. We just got to change our attitudes. And not just with the kids, the adults need to change how adults talk to adults. In school, out in our community, everywhere. People, we make ourselves miserable. And we don't have to do that. So we all just need to work together. And I don't know how to get people to buy in on that. It's just like, I'm sure everybody thinks I'm probably living in an alternative universe to think that it could be better than it is. We can do better. I'm done. I'm really done this time.
Yes. I need a motion to adjourn and go into closed session. Randy makes the motion. Do we have a second? Dan seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried 7-0.
I want one. No. I want one of them.
They're his cookies too.
That's what I wanted.
I had no idea. That's what you
I agree.
Come see me sometime.